Thank you.
I'm Lloyd by without fire.
Gai mà nhỏ lột chuyện, gai mà nhỏ lột chuyện lột.
Jama kwe gai ruja du pupen jenu ba chena dun lew. Jenu kwa wa kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar adu. Ichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran chin dolar tial kiwen chin ma kwe kwa kwa chin dolar kagyan. Jama kwe gai ruja du pupen jenu ba chena dun lew. Jenu kwa wa kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar. Tundung dolar kidal, Quran kin dolar, biar kiwen kin makwe, pakoi kin dolar kagyan. Jama kwe gai ruja du pupen jenu ba kena dun lew. Jenu kwa wa kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar adu. Ichin bang tundung dolar kidal, Quran kin dolar, biar kiwen kin makwe, pakoi kin dolar kagyan. Ichin bang tundung dolar kidal. Kin dolar biar kiwen kin makwe pakoi kin dolar kagyan. Kin bang tundung dolar kidal. Quran kin dolar biar kiwen kin makwe pakoi kin dolar kagyan. Jadan yom gula yom kala yom be dom be magala par majong awan kijama beji kemana tialam dan panaku mengawu kong akur betong.
Thank you so much to our viewers, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries. And my request to all of you is to share this live show in order to reach to many South Sudanese. That would be so interesting to watch and listen to our guest in the studio. And in the studio with us today on the 8th of June 2024 are the members of People's Coalition for Civil Actions, which is PCCA. We have Honorable Kuel Aguer, the former governor, is here with us today, and he will focus much on the issues of political affairs in our country. And as most of you have been asking where he is, and you want to listen to his wisdom and his ideas, Lagos State Media is here today to have a conversation with him. And on the same note, we have Rajab Mohandis, the member also of PCCA, and he has been very vocal in the affairs of the country, seeing independence and before independence. And he's here today to talk to South Sudanese in regard to the peace talk in Nairobi. And on the third person is Awolich. Most of you are aware of him, and he always add his voice, his opinions when it comes to the affairs of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, we have these vibrant minds, and these are South Sudanese who have dedicated their life and their ideas to the welfare of our country. And we have them today, and the topic of today will be the peace talk in Nairobi, and what is the outcome and how the peace is going, and they will brief the public on their expectation as the PCCA. Up to this juncture, permit me to welcome each one of them to give his opening remark before we dive into our today conversation. Reminds you once again, we will not take long. We understand the MTN, Zain, and digital in Juba are not giving you a conducive environment. We'll consider that. We will not take much of your time, at least 45 minutes or 1 hour. And that is where our conversation will be. Allowed me to welcome Awolich to give his opening remark before we move into the conversation. Awolich, activate your mic and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brother Majok Makur, and to the leadership of Lake State Media, and appreciate my colleagues, Rajab Mohandis and Governor Kuel, sharing this space with me today. And greetings to the people of South Sudan, wherever they may be. I'm a little bit affected by some allergies, so my eyes and my nasal situation is not as normal. So if I talk funny, that is the reason. Now, I want to take this opportunity to inform the people of South Sudan that we are here for the first time as members of the People's Coalition for Civil Action, PCCA, to inform them that we are officially participating in the peace process in Nairobi. And the reason we are participating is that we are motivated by the need for our country to dialogue. We want people to talk and to resolve a persistent crisis that has affected the country for the last 10 years or more than 10 years. We think that these issues can be resolved through dialogue. And we have been promoting for the last 3 years the need for people of South Sudan to increase their level of participation in the affairs of the country. Because since 2005, we have entrusted the future of the country in the hands of our leaders. And the last 10 years has shown that our leaders have not been very reliable in guarding the peace that we desire and in guarding the democratic aspiration of our people for which we fought, and even in guarding the welfare of our people. And so we think that when events in the country have reached that level, where the leadership is unable to take action that will steer the country toward peace and stability, the obligation is on the citizens to come forward and to guide the leadership. This is the position of the People's Coalition for Civil Action. And this is the basis upon which the PCCA was established, is to awaken our people and to tell them that the power, the ultimate power, resides with them. And if things are not going well in their country, and the leaders are not able to take action to correct the path the country is following, the citizens are obligated to come forward and to correct things in the country. If they fail to do so, the country will always be under the crisis that we have seen. And we will have ourselves to blame for allowing this situation to persist. And so this was the basis upon which we decided to join the Tumaini initiative, which is the high-level mediation for South Sudan. We want to negotiate with the government of South Sudan and other opposition groups that the way to resolve the crisis in South Sudan is through dialogue and through returning power to the people of South Sudan through constitutional making process. Peace agreements have been signed, and I can enumerate a number of them. The first one is the CPA, of course, which gave us our referendum and the independence. There are articles in the CPA that are not fully implemented. including the ABI protocol. We are aware of that. Then there was a peace agreement in 2012 or 2014 between 2013 between the Cobra faction of the Pibor administrative area with the government. That agreement has been virtually implemented as well. And then you have the SPLM inter-SPLM peace agreement in Arusha, which remains unimplemented. Then you have the agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan, which collapsed in 2015. And then you have the current revitalized peace agreement, which was intended to be implemented within 3 years. It has not been implemented. And you had the agreement between Kidguang factions of Johnson Lunya and Gadwij Dual, which have also not been implemented. So South Sudan has a history of dishonoring its commitments toward the people of South Sudan. And so this time we are saying we have to try something new. And that is that let us go directly to reform the power structure and the state structure through a constitutional agreement. And that is the basis upon which the PCCA has joined the Tumaini initiative. And that is what we are advocating for. And that is what we stand behind to make sure that power returns in the hands of the people of South Sudan. Yeah, so that is what I can say. And so far, we have there is an environment of an open dialogue among the parties to the Tumaini initiative. The government is willing to listen to the voices that have come through the opposition and also civil society groups and the opposition and also other stakeholders, including the PCCA. We have also been willing to listen to the government to understand the challenges that they are facing, and so that we work collaboratively to find a solution that addresses the persistent crisis in the country once and for all. And so that is why we joined, and that is where we are at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abraham Awolich. Before I move to the second person, who is Rajab Mohandis, there are two things that I need your wisdom on that. You said South Sudan has a history of dishonoring the agreement or commitments to its people. And we have to try the different path in order to realize the potential of our country. Kindly, can you shed more light on that? What do you think should be the new path South Sudan should take in order to have a commitment toward the people of the country? Number two, you are talking about the assessment and observation so far, that the agreements and the conducive environment is conducive rather. And we have seen the commitments on the government side and are willing to listen to the oppositions and other civil activists, in other words. Kindly, can you shed more light on that? How is the environment so far? Is it that much, despite some of the allegations which were circulated 2 weeks ago, which was last month, which one of the parties were to pull out due to some of the allegations which were actually disputed immediately? Kindly give us more light on that.
Well, on the first question regarding what is the new initiative that we are putting on the table, we are very much saying that let us write a new constitution. Let us not beat around the bush trying to talk about reforms and other things that will be implemented in the future, and a constitutional process that will be undertaken sometime in the future. We are saying no, we actually need a constitution, not a peace agreement. And we know that the current constitution tilted the balance of power in favor of a central government. And by virtue of its nature, the government is always clawing back all the powers from people. And so when you give it more powers from the very beginning, it will end up taking all the powers. So the states and the counties have been completely rendered powerless. And even in the central government, the power has tilted way toward the executive and vested a lot in the person of the president. We think that this has been the crisis, this has been the basis of crisis, and the country has been moving systematically and deliberately toward an authoritarian state where you have seen the growing power of National Security Service and the growing tendency of the Tiger Division, which is the presidential guard, which has largely been transformed into a private military of the president. All these symptoms suggest that we are becoming a dictatorial system and an authoritarian system. We need to reverse that. And there is no amount of reform that can reverse that. You have to restructure power through the constitution, which is why we are calling for the holding of a constitutional conference in Nairobi so that the people of South Sudan go home with a constitutional agreement, not a peace agreement. And now you can begin to implement that constitutional agreement, which will inherently have the provisions of a federal system that will give states some degree of autonomy that the central government will not interfere with. So we believe that if you do that, if you decentralize power and you reduce the powers of the president and the executive, and you empower the legislature, the courts, then South Sudan could turn a corner toward democratization. And when you reach that level of democracy, this violent contestation of power will disappear, because if I'm a member of of the SPLM and there is a free space and I want to become a chairman of the SPLM or the candidate of the SPLM for presidency, I can simply declare myself a candidate and test the water and challenge the incumbent. And in a pre-contest, if I get beaten, it will prove to me that the incumbent is still popular. I have to wait and I have to do my work. In the future, I could come back. This will reduce violence in the long term. But these peace agreements, which provide power sharing formula, are short term and they have proven to have run the country bankrupt, and we should not continue. We need to go back to democratizing and giving power back to the people of South Sudan. This will give us peace. Now, with regard to the environment, people who have been at conflict, they don't trust each other. So the opposition does not trust the government from the beginning. Even us in the PCCA, we feel threatened, and there is an element of intimidation that is inherent in any process. So you have to be vigilant and you have to sound any alarm with regards to any issues. But the parties over the last few weeks have built some degree of confidence. There is a genuine desire, of course, on the side of government to want to negotiate and have some peace agreement. The same thing is true for the opposition, and the mediation is doing a good job. But it doesn't mean that people are not skeptical about the motivations and intentions of the government. Those things continue to exist. The same thing with the government. They are skeptical about some of the ideas and some of the demands of the opposition, including the PCCA, and they are not very happy about it. Probably this show they will not be very happy about it, because we are telling the people of South Sudan something about the peace process which they may not agree with. But this is the nature of dialogue. And so I can say that the environment is conducive. We are able to express ourselves competently, and the government is able to express itself competently. And then the mediation is able to see where the middle ground is. So that is what I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abraham Wolich, for giving us such brief information and also updates the public and especially South Sudanese who are wondering on what is happening in Nairobi. Thank you so much, Rajab Mohandis. Activate your mic. The chance is yours. And as Abraham Wolich actually spoke much on what motivated or prompted PCCA to participate in the peace agreement, and also what you have intended to persuade or to bring on the table of negotiation with the government and other political parties that will actually benefit the people of South Sudan. Kindly, can you shed more light on that? What are the expectations of PCCA if this agreement go through? What do you want to see at the end of it all, the results, in other words? Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Majok Makur, for the question, and thank you all at the Lex State Media for organizing this conversation. I join my colleagues, Awolich and Governor Kuel, to extend my greetings to your audience in South Sudan and across the globe. Yes, we picked interest to participate in this process immediately when we realized that President Ruto had accepted the call from our president to organize and mediate a dialogue or peace between the government and the opposition. It has been our call all this while that we, as the people of South Sudan, need to get back to the drawing board, because we started very well on July 9th, 2011, when we became independent, and shortly after that, we lost track, and a lot of things went wrong, and so that did not help us to deliver the country we wanted when we voted for independence, and that we aspired for throughout the course of our liberation struggle. And so we felt that the right thing to do was for the people of South Sudan to get together, think through the situation, and reach an understanding, a consensus on the best way forward. And so when this initiative started with the Mediation Secretariat organizing this process and consulting with different stakeholders, we played a role in reaching out to them to understand how they wanted to run the process, and also share our views with them on what we thought would be important to consider for a successful mediation. And so as we participate in this process, we expect that, first of all, there will be an honest acknowledgement of the situation in our country, that we are in a crisis, and that we have made attempts several times to address this crisis in numerous ways, and our colleague Awolich has outlined a number of processes that we undertook as a country and as people, but still this situation is around and with us, and therefore there is a need to learn from the previous experiences and do things a little bit differently. And so as we participate, we expect that this honest acknowledgement would be there of the situation, and that should lead us into understanding why we got into this problem, why we got into this crisis when we were very hopeful that we would have a better country after seceding from Sudan. And so that these conversations, in our view, should lead us to commitments, particularly in the first place. We think that it's important to have what we refer to as a constitutional agreement, as opposed to the same political agreements that we have signed have never fully implemented, and that there would be a better modality of implementation of the outcomes of these conversations, or of this mediation. That if the parties and the stakeholders reach an understanding and an agreement and conclude this process successfully, then there should be also, in that case, a clear modality of implementation of the outcomes. The element of implementation we think is important, because we have seen our failures as a country to successfully implement commitments. And therefore, there is need to ensure that this is done, an understanding is reached on this, and new ways are improvised to help us in delivering on the outcomes of this initiative. I think the second thing we also believe that is important is that we as the people of South Sudan should be able to build consensus on critical national issues, and in that regard build confidence and trust among ourselves, so that this should help us to work together in the best interest of the country. And so as these discussions continue, we are seeing some of we're seeing it taking a direction that looks reasonable in a way. In that regard, quite a lot have been identified as some of the core issues that have been affecting the country, and also quite a number of recommendations have been put alongside that. And we are happy to also hear from the chief mediator that we need an agreement to implement an agreement. In a way, there should be a way we deal with the issues of implementation. So there are still a lot of things ahead of us that we are deliberating on, and that we hope that as the deliberations proceed, we will keep building consensus on all of these things, and at least find something much better that would help to transform the country. Yeah, I would leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajab Mohandis, for your remarks and also giving review on regard to the Nairobi peace talk. Thank you so much. I will go straight to Governor Kuel Aguer. Governor, we are excited and happy to have you once again. And I think last week, but wonders when you left Juba to Nairobi, Kenya, to participate in the peace talk. And many people, many South Sudanese were so happy to see you leaving the country after so long being confined within the country, not to leave the Juba to even for treatment for yourself. Kindly, can you brief us what were the process that you went through or you undertake to be granted a green card to come and participate in the peace talk in Nairobi? Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank the Lake State Media for having me again to speak on issues of South Sudan, and particularly my personal case of being restricted in Sudan or in South Sudan for so long after I was released from the prison. At first, in November last year, I think during the process when the president was going for General Assembly of UN, I was informed that I've now been cleared and I should have my passport. So I had this and I did some consultation with the national security officers, and they said, yes, we have done that. And I said, where is my passport? They sent me to a department to deal with this. But they were saying that the passport was not available in the case. They kept on telling me, we look for it and all that. So I kept quiet and waited to get it. This took that long up to this week when I was invited by the mediation to join the mediation in Nairobi, and we agreed that if the passport is not ready now, we should try what we call travel document, which is a one-way document that can take you to where you are going. It may not return you and will not allow you to proceed to anywhere. So I went normally and did it. And then after that, we bought ticket, and I got the invitation letter from the mediation. So I took all that and went to the airport to check in. I did it myself. I did not ask anybody to do because I had wanted it to be visible. That it is me who is doing process and it is me who want to trouble. I did that smoothly. Nobody questioned me. I was the last person to check in the airplane. And I went to the migration, and the attitude there is that it's not you don't just get it stamp. You have to register traveling document in a ledger book in the airport. So that was registered. After it was registered, it was stamped and given to me. So I went normally and waited for the plane to come. A plane delay for almost 1 hour from usual time it was supposed to be. And then when the plane arrived, like any other passenger, we boarded the plane and we took off to Nairobi. Nobody questioned me, nobody asked about me, but I just left like any other passenger. So I don't know whether that it was something else after I was told that I had been cleared, because I met the officer who was responsible for the airport at one time in his staff club. And I asked him about my passport, and he said, "No, I don't know your passport. But what I was told was to clear you at the airport so that if you want to go to anywhere, then you can go." And the issue of passport, I said I will look for it. And if I get it, I'll give it to you. The day I was traveling, I tried to call that officer. Unfortunately, his phone was off. I don't know whether he's out of the country or he's in the country. The other officer I tried to call also to inform him because he has been removed. He has been moved from his position to a different institution within the organized forces. He did not pick the phone. So I used my travel document and came. So that is how I left Juba to Nairobi. I'm hearing there are speculation that that I have escaped or sneak out or all this. No, I didn't. There's no question of sneaking or escaping or something, because I'm coming pacifically by accepting the invitation from the chief mediator, and I came and I joined the process because our colleague Abram was to go back to US because of some commitment. Like myself, I'm committing in teaching in University of Juba, and maybe in 10 days time or 9 days time, I may be forced to go back to go and continue to teach the student I'm teaching. So there is no question of escaping or question of sneaking out of the country. I went through the process by going to migration, get the travel document, which was prepared and stamped, and then came into the airport, check in, and then I was stamped out to leave the country. Even when I'm going back, I will contact the embassy here to give me another travel document to go back to Juba. So this is what had happened.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Basically, you were using travel documents to leave the country, and you will use the same documents through the embassy when you'll be returning to Juba. Literally, you are not yet received your passport, and you don't even know when your passport will come. That's correct?
Yeah, what I'm doing now, when I go back from here, I will ask the national security. If they don't have my passport, they give me a letter to whom it may concern that the passport of this person is lost. And then I take it to migration to make another passport, because if they go into the system, they will discover that I have a passport which is still valid. And they will ask me, where is it? So I might have a lost certificate document to show to the migration that this document is lost, and therefore I need to be issued a new one. So this is even before that. In generally, I spoke with this person that was responsible for giving it to me. I said, if you want, you make for me another one, and I sent him the copy of what the passport they are keeping. And he said he was going to try. When I asked him again, he said, let me try to find out exactly what happened to the passport that we took from you. So that is going to be the situation.
Thank you so much for that explanations and also giving clear information to clear doubts for those who are saying you escape or you actually sneak out of the country. Thank you. Now let's move to the peace talk in Nairobi, which you are currently based in Kenya, purposely for the same cause. For the few days that you have been there, Governor, and you leaving the country to attend this initiative, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like your grievances, not PCC alone, also the group which referred to by the government as All Out Group, do you feel like your grievances are almost coming to an end, or somebody has given you the listening ear to listen to what you have been saying until you have been jailed and some of your colleagues flew out of the country and all that? Thank you.
You know, the grievances are not personal or they are not particular with the PCCA. PCCA emerged out of the fact that there is a general problem in the country that the agreements and any other national agreement like national dialogue resolutions were not being honored and nobody got committed to implement them. And as a result, if you have seen our release, we have talked about the leadership failure to implement the agreements and we enumerate them. One particular agreement is the agreement of resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, which was signed 2015, and they tried to implement it 2016, but it broke into two pieces. There was IO that remained with the government and IO that left. They tried their best to try to implement it, but they couldn't. So it was revitalized and brought back to the people to start it again. It took almost 15 months because there were 6 months and then another 6 months and then there is another 90 days for the government to start implementing it or to the parties to implement it. And this did not happen within a specified period. Then the same parties using Article 8.4 extended the period and roadmap the agreement. They made it, they put it into roadmap. They pick out what they think are critical provisions, and they said they need to do this, including the election. They said they want to implement this, at least for people to go to democracy and stability. Again, we are now left with a very few months to, I think it is 8 months. If we are concluding this month, it will be about 7 months to reach the end of it. Now that the president fell on the process, that is, he want anybody that is aggrieved to come back to the country and participate in the process of election. So that is how this thing came about, and we joined it. It was explained by Rajab. But my observation is that the process is going well, and the process is also having its own challenges. First of all, the parties were asked to present their positions, and the mediation has put these positions into a document. And the document has been given back to the parties, including PCCA, civil society, and religious leaders and women group. To look at it, see whether all what they presented has been incorporated into the report, and then on Monday, they will start consultation with the groups. I think up to now, it is going well as far as the process is concerned. And then the international community also have developed interest, because yesterday we received the foreign minister of Norway coming to address us and try to encourage us that you people try to be serious about your country. And this is the last chance for you, for the international community to stand with you, because there are so many problems in the world. So please try your best. Time is money, and there are no more resources for this process to continue for long. So that is spirit of international community, plus the seriousness of the mediating body, plus the commitment that was shown by the president when he came to open the launching of this process, and the speeches that were given by opposition. Everybody is trying his best to contribute to make sure that there is peace in South Sudan, there is stability in South Sudan, there is a transition from political crisis to democracy. This is what everybody is trying to address. For us as PCCA, we think that our country has a problem, and the most important thing now is not power or responsibility sharing. What we think is important is to bring peace, stability, and harmony in our country, and we transit to democracy. This is our task, and this is what we are selling to civil society, to religious leaders, to most of our participants, including the opposition group, that this power that is being shared doesn't belong to any of us, it belongs to people of South Sudan. And therefore, we have to make a strategy to make sure that this power is returned back to the people, so that we have sovereignty of people. And then we will go, or whoever want to lead the country or need to be assigned to run the country, will go to the people and ask them that I need to serve you, let you give me a chance to be able to do this in a free and transparent and politically level field, with political space and civic space allowed for political parties, for civil society to be able to speak freely and be able to do something. And then we think that we have too many agreements that we have signed and we have revitalized and we have roadmap, and they are not implemented. So one thing we want to come out from here is the mechanism to be able to deliver what is required by people of South Sudan. And then we would like the constitution, because the constitutional process was supposed to be started, I think, 1 or 2 months after the formation of the government or transitional government of national unity. It has delayed up to today. We think that we need to do it rapidly. We need to do it in an environment that is conducive for everybody, so that it is delivered to the people of South Sudan to look at it. And if they want to endorse it in the referendum, that will be their choice. But we must do a constitution that is people-centered and that is to be owned by everybody in South Sudan. This is the intention that is there. My observation is that this process is good. If we make use of it, we can come out with something good. But if we think that it is business as usual, I think we are at a very dangerous stage, that our country is facing difficulties. One, we can face disintegration of the country. And some of you who are in the media have seen some maps that are talking about this disintegration of the country. Or we can go into permanent chaos, because if somebody wants to use force, physical force, to take power or to keep power, people will not accept it, and people can go to permanent chaos. So the only path that is available in front of us now is to peacefully transform our country and transit to democracy. This is the only good path we have. Otherwise, any other option is not going to help. And this is what we are telling to the armed opposition, that South Sudan cannot any longer bear any war. We need to go for peaceful resolution of this. The other thing that actually I observe is that although the process is inclusive, it's not inclusive enough. Why? Because we have Nas of Thomas who has refused or has concern about the situation in where the mediation is taking place, and therefore he did not turn up. Second, there is this armed group, Simon Gadwich, who is leading the faction of IO of Kitgwang. He also expressed the same concern about the security. So their fear had become so much that it prevents them to come and participate, despite the fact that people like Stephen Boy has actually taken courage and came. So this is my concern, that if we leave these two guys out, the process will not be completely inclusive, because Simon Gadwich is disturbing Upper Nile State and Jonglei State, and Thomas in most of Equatorial areas. So if any part of South Sudan is not peaceful, then South Sudan is not peaceful. And therefore, we must make sure that the peace come to everyone and not to some more people. I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Honorable. It is a very powerful statement. If any part of South Sudan is not peaceful, and then the whole country is not in peace. Thank you so much for that, and for also explaining your observations that the peace is not that inclusive, and you have given out justification to why you say so. To our viewers, kindly bear with us. We still have 2 more questions before we conclude our conversation. And please keep sharing it. And that's the only thing that you can do to our guests, so that many people will get to hear from them. Let me go back to Abraham Awolich. Abraham Awolich, you have mentioned many things, and most especially the Constitution Agreement. And in the Constitution agreements, you mentioned the dissolutions of some of the government apparatus, especially the security aspect of the country, in order to demystify some of the roles being run by these security organs. And on the same line, we are seeing PCCA and other civil societies group, and those who were not militarily using force in order to express their dissatisfactions with the affairs of the country. Kindly, can you give us your opinions? How do we reconcile these two? Now the peace agreement has brought all of you together. Only 2 arms groups that did not turn up, the one of NAS and the IO factions, Kidigwang, which did not turn up. But the like of Gerald Malone, Gerald Pagana Mom, all these peoples are present and are jointly discussing the issues of the country alongside the PCCA. Do you believe that the ideas of PCCA are the same ideas with other groups or other political parties in the agreement? And if yes, and if no, rather, how are they going to be reconciled by the mediators group? Thank you. Unmute yourself, Abraham.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the question. The initial process, which started in Rome, included civil society groups and other stakeholders. But as soon as the process moved to Nairobi, our condition for participating in the process, which we wrote to President Ruto, was that we want a process that is open to all the people of South Sudan. Because even though we have an existing agreement, the issues and the crisis persist. And therefore, there is a need for what we call a roundtable conference, or what we call a political dialogue, national political dialogue. And so we see this process as an opportunity for the people of South Sudan in all their walk of life to come to the table and to reestablish our nation, which has been broken. And so that is partly the reason we are on there. And that is the reason other civil society members are there. With regards to our ideas are ideas of the people of South Sudan. As Governor Kuel mentioned previously, PCCA came into being after the president and the government decided to shelve the resolutions of the South Sudan National Dialogue. And so PCCA is actually a national dialogue product. And so we are on that table to say that the views and the will of the people of South Sudan must be respected. The will of the people of South Sudan, which they express through the South Sudan National Dialogue Conference. And that is why we are there. And so some of our ideas are actually consistent with the demand, the popular will of the people of South Sudan. For example, what are we saying? We are saying that the unity of the people of South Sudan is important. Right now, we are not united. And the reason we are not united, based on the assessment of the South Sudan National Dialogue, is the failure of leadership. Our leaders have failed to unite us, and instead they chose to compete for power violently, which is the basis of what has disunited the country. Now, it will be dishonest for the people of South Sudan, and this is why we believe strongly in the national dialogue. We will be dishonest if we say that we have resolved the issue of South Sudan, yet we have nothing to say about the failure of leadership. So this is one unique position of the PCCA, that both President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar manifest the basis of divisions that have caused the country this far. And therefore, the people of South Sudan, through the national dialogue, concluded that they should prepare to step down. We are holding that position as PCCA because it's the popular will of the people of South Sudan, and because we believe that there cannot be a total solution in South Sudan that does not touch on this question of leadership. So that is one thing that people may say, maybe that is a radical position. But it is not a making of the PCCA. This is a resolution. This is something that came through the people of South Sudan in the national dialogue. And so we are for that. But we are also flexible in saying that we are not just saying we should humiliate President Kiir and humiliate Dr. Riek Machar. That's not what we are saying. We are saying that we can, through these peace talks, we should discuss that particular issue, that people of South Sudan were divided because of violent power contestation, which is which can only be defined through the two individuals, or President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar. And so if you want to find a long-term solution, you must really address this issue. And so we are saying that maybe one way to address this is to have a clear roadmap in this process that gives both President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar a short time to clean their image and to work on their legacy, And when we reach the time, they will step aside and they will qualify for all the privileges given to former heads of state, and also maybe protection from prosecution. But we cannot be silent on this issue. If we are completely silent on it, we will be dishonest, and the crisis in South Sudan will persist. So that is one area. The other groups may agree with us to some extent, but they are political organizations, so they have some constraint that they may not be able to articulate this issue as we are. On the issue of the constitutional agreement, we are on board with them. They agree with us that there is a need for a much larger table, a much wider table, which we would call political dialogue. And if there is resistance to that, we could come down to what we call the constitutional conference. But there is, in fact, a need for a wider table that will allow the people of South Sudan to resolve some of the fundamental disagreements that we have had as a country, which will then pave way now for a constitutional conference where the agreements that will come out of this dialogue will become immediately enshrined in the constitution and be protected. So that is another idea, but that idea has popular support among all the actors on the table, including the government. Even though we may disagree in terms of where you can hold the constitutional conference, the government would prefer to have it back home. We are saying that we need a neutral political space to do this, and that is why we are calling for it to be held in Kenya. Now, regarding the other institutions of government like the Presidential Guard and National Security Service, and in addition to that, we are actually calling for an independent international military commission to help unify the armed forces of South Sudan, take them away from the hands of the warlord, and create an independent army. So that is another thing that we are advocating for, and I think the other opposition groups would agree with that. Government may resist that. But the National Security Service was initially envisioned by our own constitution to be an agency that will only collect intelligence and analyze information and help the leadership to make decisions. But we have seen over the years that service has grown into its own parallel army, rivaling the South Sudan Defense Forces. It's heavily armed, and they have also taken over the work of police. They are arresting people. They are basically harassing the people of South Sudan, which is a violation. Which is a violation of the constitution itself. They have become a terror to the people of South Sudan, listening to people having normal conversations in tea places and harassing them. This is not what was envisioned. So we are saying that this service has been instrumentalized and diverted to serve a specific political objective of the incumbent. And it is totally contrary to our democratic aspirations, and therefore it has to go. But we still need a national intelligence service, so we will create a new national intelligence service with that specific name to emphasize the fact that we are looking for an entity that will collect intelligence for us, to protect us, not a service that is there to harass us and to stifle our democratic progress. With regards to the Tiger Division, we all know that the 2013 conflict happened in Guyana, and it was the Tiger Division that was fighting. And also in 2016, at the presidential palace in the State House, the intense fighting that took place there was within and among the Tiger Division. So this is a unit that is synonymous with violence and crisis and oppression in South Sudan. It has to go. And we will need to create a new unit that will protect BIFs that is independent from all the political leaders, but with the specific mission to make sure that our leaders are protected. So we don't want to have a situation where the president has his own army to intimidate political rivals and to actually instigate violence to protect his power. So this is consistent with our demand for return of power to the people of South Sudan and the return of democracy, as well as the need for a new constitution. And so all these things together are a package to try to democratize South Sudan so that we can reduce political violence and violent political competition. So those things may seem radical, but if people pay clear attention to them, we will be dishonest to say that we need democracy while we leave these three things in place. The two leaders that have caused the crisis in the country, if we leave them untouched, and the institutions that have been tools of violence and oppression and tools that have implemented an authoritarian state, if we leave them untouched, then we are not being honest with ourselves and with the people of South Sudan. So these ideas have support within the groups, although they may seem radical at face value, but when you dig deeper, they are actually consistent with the desire and the needs of the people of South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abraham Wolich, for that eloquent explanations of what you meant and what is the intentions of how you want to present your ideas as PCCA in conjunction with other political parties. Thank you so much. Rajab Mohandis, we will not just you and the governor will talk about the elections and the time frame and the peace talk going on in Nairobi. And Abraham Wolich will add something a little bit before we move to the comment sections and also to the clubhouse. Now the time is not on our side, as it was mentioned by the governor. And the government of South Sudan is looking forward for the elections and also the people of South Sudan in December. And now there is peace agreements or the peace talk actually going on in Nairobi. Citizens are trying to comprehend the two scenarios. Will they actually happen within this short time frame of less than 5 months or not? And if the agreements reach in Nairobi and you will be allowed to go to Juba, do you think you will go to Juba, stay 1 month and then you go for elections as the country? Or do you believe possibilities of extensions will be there or will be suggested also in the peace talk in Nairobi? Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Well, with regard to elections, we have been very clear on this matter, right from 2022, early 2022, when we knew that the elections would not be conducted by December of 2022. And all along, we have been saying this. Towards the end of 2022, around August, there was the extension of the agreement. I mean, through the roadmap. And that came particularly because the government at the end, that was initially saying there would be an election by the end of the year, then actually yielded to the fact that the country was not prepared enough and therefore an extension was necessary. So an extension of 24 months was done. Now, as it stands now, to be clear on this, we in the PCCA do not believe that South Sudan is going to hold elections by December this year. Now, here are the reasons. Number one, the roadmap and the agreement and the roadmap whichever is taken as legitimate in this case, stipulated that the constitution, the elections would be governed by the permanent constitution. And so the extension of the 24 months were based on the time needed to produce the permanent constitution. And the work on the constitution would have started, according to the roadmap, on the 30th of August last year. 2022, 30th of August 2022, and conclude by 30th of August this year. Now, this work did not start on the 30th of August 2022. The Constitutional Review Commission was just established towards the end of last year, and it has not yet started work meaningfully. And therefore, it is completely untenable, or it is unbelievable that within the remaining 2 months of the 24 months given for this process, a new constitution will be developed to govern the conduct of the elections. The second thing is that preparations for elections have not been done. The elections law as revised says registration of voters would conclude 6 months before the elections. Now we are left with about 6 or less than 6 months to the elections when the registration should have concluded. The status at the moment is that it has even not started. Not just that it has not started, it's not anywhere close to starting, because officials have not been recruited, the constituencies have not been demarcated, and all of these things have not been done. To make matters worse, even these institutions have not been adequately funded to undertake those responsibilities. So practically, you can say that this level of preparation is completely inadequate and doesn't show that the elections will take place. So in our view, the elections are not going to happen. And we need to be clear on this as a country so that we begin to focus really on the issues as to how we proceed from here when elections will not be conducted. It appears like the way things are running, we are simply trying to repeat the experience of 2022, when the story was that elections would be conducted, and towards the end of the year, instead of an election, an extension was done. And so at this point in time, we think that there are critical issues that we need to address really as a country if we want to get out of crisis. And one of these was what my colleague Awolich was talking about, the issue of the forces, the security sector. The transitional security arrangements outlined in the agreement has been a lost cause at the moment, in our view. You may be aware I'm a signatory to the agreement and I've been very close to this process. This arrangement to reorganize or transform the security sector had a lot of processes to then conclude with national unified forces that would provide protection to the country and deliver security to the needs of the citizens. That we have not achieved in terms of the unification. If you go to the procedures that were required, as it stands now, the forces have not all been unified. And so with all these forces scattered in the hands of different political actors, we have a situation where they can be used in any case of a political disagreement. But the result actually is that we have these forces, not as a national unified force, and completely incapable of delivering safety and security to all our people. And they have not also had the capacity to protect the sovereign territory of South Sudan. And you may be aware that our territories are being encroached on, and sometimes civilians in those areas are the ones who try to defend the territorial integrity of the Republic of South Sudan. And with all honesty, our country needs restructuring of this and quite a number of other things in terms of governance, and also really critically an understanding of us uniting to coexist as a peaceful nation. So we think that it is important to utilize this opportunity of the Tumaini initiative to discuss those critical issues and see how South Sudan would transition from where it is to a stable democracy, to a political dispensation that delivers stability and addresses the economic situation. Now, the problem we face really is that we have issues with the politics that now manifest itself in security and safety of civilians and threats to our own sovereignty as a country, and it affects the economy. As we speak now, the economy is completely flat, and it also has a lot of implications on our social fabric as a country. And so, in all of these situations, surely it will be dishonest of us as a country to think that, well, we will just be going for elections when we know that, first of all, we haven't prepared. No one has paid for these elections to happen. No one has organized these elections to happen. And we know that we have all these crises. The more we continue to delay without really diving into the real issues to address them, the more we continue to face more crises, humanitarian crisis and security crisis and economic crisis. The worst part of it also is that we are faced with natural disasters that are beyond human control. Disasters of floods and possibilities of droughts, given the nature of the changes of the climate. And when all of these things happen, we need to be a country with the capacity to face those and protect ourselves against them. We are not there. And that is why we think that it is really important for us to discuss our national issues with honesty. When we raise these questions, some people feel uncomfortable that we raise these critical issues. But what is the purpose of us holding a dialogue or wanting to resolve the crisis in our country when we can't discuss these issues and share opinions? We share our opinion and our position as the PCCA, and we think that if our opinions do not provide better solutions, let us hear from the rest of the country, the other stakeholders, the other actors in the process, so that really we should settle on solutions that address the real issues in the country. As it stands now, we are dancing around the issues carefully. We do not want to touch the real issues, and we keep pretending. And as we pretend and delay the solutions, we also face the consequences. One of these is really the issue of the economy that is biting on almost everyone. And I would leave it at this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajab Mohandis, for explaining what you thought and what is the position of PCC in regard to the elections, the time frame, and the preparations that's supposed to be in place before we even talk about the elections. Governor, the chance is yours. You can activate your mic and give us your opinions and your thoughts in regard to the elections. What is your take? Now you are in the Nairobi talking about the peace agreement, which is the peace talk. And on the other hand, the government is ready and is actually trying to inform the citizens that we will be having election by December this year, considering the time frame of less than 6 months remaining. And a lot of preparations has been explained by Rajab Mohandis that these things are not yet in place. Kindly, what is your thoughts? Because we really need your wisdom in that regard. Thank you.
I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, you are clear.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, you are crystal clear, yes.
Yeah. First of all the other challenges has been explained by my colleagues, Rajab Mohandis. But let me start as an academician from this side now, that what is election? Because if you don't know what you are going to do, you will not do it in a perfect way. Election is an exercise that is undertaken by a democratic society to arrive at democratic decision that will satisfy the people who are undertaking it. If that is the case, then now having said that we want to go for election, who is supposed to go for election? Because the political organization that we have are political and military organizations. Let's take SPLM-IG. Why was it called SPLM-IG? It is because they said it is SPLM in the government, so that it is protected by the armed forces. Because if it is just SPLM as a political organization, then nobody will care because it's a political organization, so there will be no need to use the government institution to protect it. And therefore, SPLM-IG is a military political organization. To have a perfect process, they must separate their party from the army, which need to take time. As we speak, the armed forces that were said to have been unified are not actually integrated and unified in the sense that the opposition party of the army have not been paid since they were graduated up to today. So there is nothing that shows that they are part of the national army, since some of their colleagues are being paid and some are not being paid. So that is one. The other major political military organization is IO. Up to now, His Excellency Riek Machar is a commander-in-chief of IO forces. Now, can such an organization go? Well, first of all, they will not be registered when they continue to have a military component, because the political parties law say there is no support. There shouldn't be a political organization that has an army. So if they have an army, then they will not be registered, and therefore, how will they be able to go for election? The third largest political coalition is SAWA. SAWA is composed of both political and military organizations, currently under the command of His Excellency Hussein Abdul Baghe. If they are not integrated and separated with their political organizations, it will be difficult for them to be registered, and therefore they will not be able to participate. The other aspect is that any political establishment in South Sudan must be led by elected leaders. These are not people who will appoint themselves and they say, we are the one and we are this. You must undertake national convention that should be attended by a political council, the political parties council, to ensure that a democratic process has taken place as per the constitution of that political party. Now, since 2008 up to now, the SPLM-IG has not been able to undertake any election internal democracy. And since there is no internal democracy, how can a democratic institution go for democratic process? Because you have to learn the aspect of election, defeat and accepted defeat within your organization. But if you did not have that exercise, how will you accept something that is coming from outside? To me, I think there are no political organizations that are ready legally to participate in the election. The other aspect of it is that the election is done and the geographical constituencies are drawn according to the size of the assembly that is decided, and the registration, the distribution of this of the constituencies according to the population size. And therefore, how are we going to allocate the constituencies, the election constituencies? if we don't know how many members of parliament are going to be there and how many people are there in South Sudan. It is a division of people into the population and see what will be the size of one constituency from our experience. This thing, we don't know how many are we. Since 2010 up to now, it is about 14 years. So those who were 2 years or those who were 4 years are now entitled to vote, leave alone those who are 5 and 6 and 10 and so on and 17. All these people now are entitled to vote. What will be the basis of them participating in the voting if they are not identified and known that these are the people who are going to vote? And therefore, even if people say you go for election, they will not go, they will not fulfill the law. The other aspect is that who is going to manage the election? Because the current election commission is composed of members of political organizations that are part in the revitalized transitional government of national unity. They are not independent, they are not impartial, they are not neutral. And it is required that the election commission must be, the members must be independent, must be impartial, must be neutral. This is not fulfilled. By law, if you go and challenge it, you will win the case. The last aspect of this is the question of judiciary reform. You need to have an independent, neutral, impartial judiciary that will deal with election dispute in a transparent and neutral manner. Currently, people believe that the current judiciary is very much, the leadership is very much tilting towards the SPLM. And you have seen the Chief Justice attending the SPLM endorsement in Wow. I think everybody has seen this. So there will be no justification to say I was just there by chance and therefore I'm not a member of SPLM. He is a member of SPLM. Otherwise, how did he attend the endorsement of the president in the area? So there is no neutrality in terms of judiciary and in terms of the election commission. And when we say this, people say that we are bad people. Why do we say truth? The only thing we can get out of this crisis we are is accept truth and do the right thing. These are the two things that can take us out. If we continue not to accept truth and we don't do the right thing, we will not be able to live where we are now. The crisis we are in will continue to prevail. Therefore, this is another aspect that is affecting what we call election. And therefore, we don't think technically and in terms of capacity, it is going to happen. Up to now, there are no offices in the state, there are no staff in the state, there are no equipment in the state, there are no moving facilities, because to do registration during rainy season in Upper Nile, you must have speedboats. To be able to register in Jongole, to register in Upper Nile, to register in Unity State, you must have a speedboat. Otherwise, you will not reach the people. These things are not available. And also for you to be able to undertake other things, you must have enough resources. These resources now in situation we are in, where even the members of the commission are not being paid their salary. How do you expect them to be able to participate and undertake the election? So there are practical reasons that are not political that need to be resolved if we want to transit into democracy, peaceful democracy. Otherwise, if the military establishment go for election, you know for sure that no military organization accept defeat. What they do, when they are overwhelmed, they will withdraw, reorganize, and attack. This is the nature of military. So if these political organizations are not separated from their military establishment, that is a definite open war. Do we need to go for that? I don't think we need to. Therefore, I think our leaders and our political parties leaders need to think carefully and know that we are taking our country into risk if we continue to just say endorse, vote, and then Kirmayadi 2024. That is not enough. It's more than that. And my conclusion is that the political field is not level. IO tried to mobilize and organize itself in the state, but they were met with resistance, physical resistance from state authorities. As we speak, the SPLM IG cannot go to certain areas in Upper Nile and in Jongle. They cannot. You cannot go. I think you have seen some people who were, I don't know who gave them the t-shirt and the cap, and they throw them on the trees. It's such hostile environment. It's not conducive for election, Jama. Nas Bitana, they are terribly suffering. And then, with this communal conflict where people are displaced every now and then, you may register somebody now, and by the time you are coming for polling, that person will be displaced to a different place. For example, people in Mayom can be displaced to Twitch. Will you carry the ballot box to go to Twitch so that they vote there? These people of Bor who have been displaced by floods and they are now in Juba, what will happen? Will you create the constituencies in Juba, or you take boxes to Bor where there are no people? There are practical issues that need to be addressed by authorities and by body that is going to organize election. So security of people and their properties is very much important. Last, the floods. I was in an occasion when the Minister of Water and Irrigation informed people of South Sudan that a lot of water is coming from Lake Victoria. People are saying the government of Uganda is releasing them. No, they are not releasing them. After all, the Nile that is coming from Lake Victoria was a natural thing. It was not made by Uganda. What Uganda did was to make use of water and build a dam for electricity purposes. It was not to control water. So what they do is, if there is much water in Lake Victoria and they are about to break the dam, they will now allow them to go. They will give them their natural course to go. So it is not Uganda that is releasing water. It is allowing a natural course of action to take place. And there's nothing they can do about it. What they did was to warn us that a lot of water is coming. Again, the meteorology of IGAD, and I don't know whether it is AU, is warning us that there are going to be a lot of rains from this month up to September. And if the Nile is full with water, the streams that are coming with water to the Nile will not get, so the water will flush back to where they're coming, where they are coming, and the rainwater will be stopped. The rains also are raining in Congo and Central Africa, and all of them, they come through Lake Pai, River Pai, and then Lol, and then Ju River, and then Kir River. All these, they are coming to the Nile. If the Nile is full and cannot take, then you will have a situation where the water will be stagnant all over South Sudan. And you know that the war broke out during the dry season in Sudan, where the water, the Jabalaulia Dam is always close to store water. There is no opportunity to manage that dam, and therefore water will not flow to the Nile. The White Nile will not go to Nile River, and therefore the water will flush back all along. So you don't expect water to continue to Mediterranean Sea. This is not going to happen. So these are a lot of disasters that will actually overtake the exercise of election. And we are not seeing this. We are saying we go for election and all we vote and all those kind of things. We need to take care of those who are supposed to vote. So this is my contribution into issue of election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for giving us such wisdom and experience in regard to the issues that are affecting our people in the country and how you compare them with the elections, whether there will be or not. And you have stated the reason, as it was alluded before by Rajab Mohandis. Up to this juncture, our viewers, we have come to the end of our conversations. And before we end our show, I will give each one of them to give us his last remarks and his message to the people of South Sudan. As human beings, always live on hope, and the water that irrigate hope are always words. So they will give some words to you as some advice that will also organize your hope and believe that better South Sudan is coming, not just this South Sudan of today. And I will begin with my brother Rajab Mohandis. Give us your last remark, and if there is anything that you want to comment before you give your last remark, then you are free to give us your statement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much once again, Brother Majok Makur, for this opportunity. I want to, first of all, comment on misperception that I hear quite commonly among South Sudanese, questioning why civil society should participate in peace processes like the one in Nairobi. The claim is that we are not armed, we don't pose any threat, and so what's the purpose? What do we add to this process? I think we need to clarify that all South Sudanese are affected by the situation in the country. And if opportunities were to allow, if logistics were possible, almost everyone would want to participate and demand that the situation in the country should be different, should change. And so we come to bring the voices of those ordinary citizens to this process, to engage with those political leaders and those who are armed. Secondly, one does not have to necessarily carry an arm in order to participate in decisions that affect their lives. And so decisions that are taken in these spaces are decisions that affect the country and decisions that affect the lives of all South Sudanese. And so the qualification to participate in decisions that affect our lives and our country doesn't have to be necessarily carrying arms. Citizens of South Sudan, citizenship is the basis of participation in decision making. And we participate on those bases. And it is important that we do so because our contributions influence the process and bring to the table perspectives that may not necessarily come from the armed actors. And so we also feel that it is important to transition from this aspect of using the gun in order to be heard, that we should move to a situation where we should be able to talk to ourselves and use our laws and all of that. We are not yet there, but we must keep demanding that we get there. And so we participate on this basis. Secondly, we do not claim that the high-level mediation for South Sudan, the Tumaini initiative, offers a magic solution to the problems, to the challenges in South Sudan. But we think that it is important for us as people of South Sudan to dialogue on those issues affecting our country. And that as we dialogue, we should listen to one another. And that when we do this, we have a chance, a better chance of providing a better roadmap for the solutions, for resolution of the solutions or the conflicts in our country. And so we attach a lot of importance to such peaceful political processes, that it should be the way to go, and that we should use this to demand that the situation, we find better solutions to the situation in the country. And as we do this, we are also informed by the experiences we have had of that we have talked about earlier, of really making serious and important commitments but not delivering on them, and that those experiences should help to inform decisions that are taken in these spaces. And while we participate, we have identified a number of key important aspects, indicators for us from the PCCA perspective that should be part of this process. And some of these things we see them happening, including expansion of the process to accommodate voices of civil society and other political actors who were not necessarily there when the process started in Rome. It was a very narrow process that only involved the government and those in the South Sudan Opposition Alliance, but now Opposition Movements Alliance, SOMA, but now this has expanded to accommodate more of the actors. We think that this is constructive, and we also believe that we need more of regional and international support to this process and also to the outcomes, possible outcomes of this process. We believe that we have serious challenges, and this is what informs our engagement in these processes, and that with honest dialogue, possibilities are that South Sudan may reach more reasonable and lasting solutions to the crisis that we face. We are available, and as we participate, we present all the views that we think are necessary and relevant to the situation in our country. And we need the listening ears of all the stakeholders involved, particularly the government and the opposition groups, so that more amicable solutions are reached. And as we do this, we will keep the citizens of South Sudan informed of what is happening and how the process is progressing. So far, at this point, as we speak, this engagement is progressing and progressing well. And as it goes on, we will be informing citizens. The other thing I will say, maybe lastly, is that there are so much rumors that fly about this process, and some of these may be misinforming the public. And so you should use this platform and also the other platforms available to South Sudanese to engage with people who are involved in this process. And if you have your reporters who are within the vicinity of the process, who are in Nairobi, they should also engage with the mediation, so that South Sudanese citizens are informed from the perspective of the delegates who are here, from the civil society, the political actors, and also from the perspective of
Apologies to our viewers. I guess Rajab Mohandis has network interruption, I guess. And while we are waiting for him to come back, I think, President, you can drop him and let him rejoin again. Thank you. While we are waiting for him to return, I will give this chance to Awolich to give us his last remarks in regard to the conversation. Thank you, Abraham. Activate your mic.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Majuk Makur and the entire Lake State Media leadership, and to the listeners and people of South Sudan across the country and around the world. My last message is that the process that is ongoing in Nairobi is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for somebody is just calling me. I don't know, it's disrupting.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
the process that is happening in Nairobi is an important process, and it is important for the people of South Sudan to pay attention to it and to support it. And Kenya, of course, is a country that has a history of supporting peace processes in South Sudan and Sudan. And it was through the Kenyan mediation that we were able to get the CPA and the referendum which led to the birth of South Sudan. General Lazarus Mboyo is the chief mediator of this process. He is the one who mediated the CPA. So we trust him. We also trust in President Ruto and their mediation team that they genuinely want the problem in South Sudan to go away, because South Sudan is weighing heavily on the region, weighing down heavily on the region in terms of economic and security. And so they genuinely want South Sudan to be at peace and to join the regional development process. We are also affecting them. Our population, large population, has migrated to Kenya. So this is also making their services limited to their citizens because they have to serve the people of South Sudan as well. So that from that angle, it is important to pay attention to the process. Second point I would like to make is that important for the people of South Sudan, especially armed opposition groups who are not part of the process now, to join the process. Because talking is always better, even if you were to disagree, talk first and disagree later. But not talking is not a solution. So it is important for both the mediation, the government, and the opposition groups to open up the process to allow those who are aggrieved to come to the table to table their grievances with the government and the people of South Sudan at large. Doing this allows for the trust building within the country, because the most important thing is that if you have a grievance and it is acknowledged, it makes you feel better. It makes you want to have peace. But when your grievances are not acknowledged, you become more bitter, and that does not help the peace process in the country. The third point I like to make is that the position that the PCCA has taken is a position of the people of South Sudan, which they have expressed through the South Sudan National Dialogue. We are not creating things out of blue. We are talking about things that we have witnessed as having contributed to the crisis in the country. We believe that if we are to be honest as a people to ourselves, we really have to talk about things that we don't want to talk about. Things that we know are the problem, and if we talk about them, they may be dangerous. Well, we have already accepted the responsibility that comes with talking, and Governor Kuel has paid for this for 2 years in jail, and Rajab, Mohandis, and other colleagues within the PCCA, we are paying for this, having been kicked out of our country and separated from our families. But at the same time, these are the things that need to be addressed so that the country can move forward. Lastly, with regards to the talks themselves, it is important for the government and especially President Salva Kiir to realize that this is an opportunity for him to reconsider his legacy. What is he going to leave behind? Of course, he has achieved a huge legacy already as a liberator, and also as the first president of the Republic of South Sudan. That is sufficient. But he has allowed those who are co-governing the country with him to drag the country to war. And it is his responsibility. He is the president. So he has to be blamed for the crisis that we have seen since 2013 up to now. But he has another opportunity now through this process to tell the people of South Sudan that he recognizes their grievances against him and against his government, and that is willing to move the country forward. And one way to do this is to ask the people of South Sudan for a time that will be given to him to turn things around, whether a year or two, and to organize peaceful democratic elections in which power will be transferred to somebody else that is not him. This is what the country needs right now. And for those who are in the National Security Service and even in the Tiger, even though we are asking for these institutions to be reformed, it is not that we are against individuals that serve in that institution. We are against what they have become, the tools that have been used to suppress democratic aspirations of the people of South Sudan. And so when we go against this, we are not against individuals serving in those institutions. We are against the idea that they have come to represent, which is the element of oppressing our people. This is what we collectively fought against, and it is at the same time the very thing that we must fight against at this moment, that we should not oppress our own people, we should not divide them, and we should not really rob them of the future that they desire. This is what we stand for in this PCCA, and we will continue to fight for that until that just, peaceful, and democratic, prosperous nation of South Sudan is born. And so I want to appreciate all of you, and we will be here to continue to answer questions and also brief the people of South Sudan about the process. And we are not in the talks to negotiate ourselves into the government. We are there to negotiate the people of South Sudan back into power. That is our position. That is what we stand for. And we are open to collaborate with all the opposition groups and civil society and even the government in implementing this people-centered agreement that we are advocating for. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abraham Awolich. Rajab Mohandis, you drop off before you concluded your last remark. Kindly, if you are around, activate your mic and we give you a few seconds to conclude before we move to Governor to give his last remark.
Yes, thank you. Well, my internet is not quite stable, and I just want to conclude by appreciating you for organizing this for us to inform the public about the process in Nairobi. And also, I want to express my gratitude to the listeners who have joined to participate in this. And we hope to be available and to continue to update our citizens within the country and around the world through your platform about this process and the progress regarding what is happening here in Nairobi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rajab Mohandis. And to our viewers, we are almost to the end of our show. We are left with the Governor, Kuel Aguer. Give us your last remark in regard to our conversation and your last message to the people of South Sudan. Seeing you have been in Juba for so long and you are also engaging in the world of academics, giving lectures at the University of Juba, and also the things that you are doing apart from being a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, the Lake Media. First of all, I would like to tell people of South Sudan that our country is at the crossroad, and all of us are required to work to make sure that we keep our country united. We keep our people united, and we work for peace, and we work for democracy. That is one. Two, the government officials the public servants, whether they are military or they are civilian, they should know that their duty is to serve people of South Sudan. It's not in any way to participate in the suffering of the people of South Sudan. They must make sure that whatever they do contribute to the better welfare for the people of South Sudan. The other thing is for PCCA, we have decided to tell truth to the people. And if there is a doubt of this, we are ready. I was in Juba, and if there was an issue of perception or perception to the affairs, we could go to the national TV, the SSBC, and we debate these issues. We can go to Miraya Radio, and we debate the issues. We go to iRadio, and we debate the issues. We go to Radio Juba, and we debate the issues. If need be, we can even move to states, take the FM radios that are there, and we can discuss it in local languages, so that people knows what is the position of each party or each party to the situation we have in our country. So we need to work for peace. The other thing I'm saying is that people of South Sudan should know that I left the country to Kenya to participate in the peace talk, not to enjoy the cold water, not to enjoy any facilities, but is to participate in trying to find peace, stability, and security in our country. That is my objective here. It's not anything else. If it is a question of a job, I have a job. I'm teaching. If I were to be paid regularly, even though it is not enough for my children, it will keep me because it is like any other citizen in the country. So I'm serving people. That is why we think in PCCA that currently we need to fix our country. It will be a mad thing for a sensible person to jump into a car that is broken down or the car that cannot move regularly. You have to fix the car first before you jump into it. But if you jump into it while it is broken down, like the situation our country is now, then you will not move anywhere. The interest of getting into a car is to move. But if the car is broken down and you don't participate in its repair or pushing it at least to start before you jump in, then there must be something wrong. This is exactly what the PCCA think. We cannot look for power when our country is stuck in crisis. We want the country to come out of crisis, and whoever wants to enjoy serving people of South Sudan will think in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our viewers. We have come to the end of our show. And permit me on behalf of Lagos State Media to give the word of appreciation to our guest, Honorable Kuel Aguer. Thank you so much for creating time to come and talk to South Sudanese Awolich. We deeply appreciate your availability every time. Rajab, Mohandis, thank you so much. Keep it up. And Lagos State Media is open and willing to host as many citizens as they can in order to update the public on what is happening in the peace talk in Nairobi and the affairs of the country. May God be with you, and we wish you the best in your negotiation. Thanks to our viewers for tuning in and for always coming to listen to our visitors.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
and be blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Contiara okin you, achiliu. On you ore ne rungadie, contiara okin you, achiliu. Toyina pie wala rumbe, kain ping William. bor in Ping William Ato in Juba Malatori am yo in Ping William Ato in Benti wala kwaju wow in Ping William Ato in Malkal wala Pinyaram in Ping William
Pandiri lagi steady na niyang baiban Pinyara wiri na niyang wawadya Pandiri lagi steady na niyang baiban Pinyara wiri na niyang wawadya Inabulwerin, imbulwalakir Winabulwere jam, winabulwalpay Anyo da garedeng kagitiyang poltok Agaredeng mabog kutiyang poltok Kubolo makur, kumajong makur Abere madit kaganyo ba Pinom, anyo da garedeng kagitiyang poltok Agaredeng mabog kutiyang poltok Kubolo makur, kumajong makur Abere madit kaganyo ba Kabinyo pinom, katijal dong ajwer Abu jajwir, abu yeloy Abu jajwir, abu yeloy Bu jajwir babijar Amerika Abu jajwir babijar China Abu jajwir babijar London Abu jajwir babijar ke Dubai Abu jajwir, abu yeloy
Toyina Piay wala rumbe Kain Ping William Toyina Will wala Pibor Kain Ping William Toyin Juba Malatori am yo Kain Ping William Toyin Benti wala kwaju wow Kain Ping William Toyin Malkal wala Pinyaram Kain Ping William